For this module, we want to talk about complex numbers. Before we talk about complex numbers, I just want to remind you one important information, which is square root of -1. Square root of -1 is I, because I square is going to give you back to -1. So keep that in mind. Now, when you do something like number 1, make sure you take care of the negative. So I will break it into factor, and then because we have the square root, so you want to see a perfect square, so you can take out the perfect square. So you see right here, square root of -1 gives you I, square root of 25 gives you 5. So that would give you 5i, and then you just have the square root of 2 right there. All right, now moving on to number 2. Number 2, you want to take care of the -1 first before you want to divide. So I understand that 125 is divisible by 5, but like I said, you want to take care of the -1 first. So I'm going to put the -1 there. And then you see that for 125, that's the square root of 25 and square root of 5. Okay, so 125 divided by 5 is 25. So on the bottom, we have square root of -1 and square root of 5. So you can see right here, square root of -1 and square root of -1, that's I over I, right? And then we can cancel out that one as well, cancel out that one. So we ended up with the 5. So your final answer is 5. All right, so this one right here, like I said, I do want to take care of that -1. So I can just leave the 12 there if you don't want to simplify. And I have square root of 3 and I have square root of -1. Now, you can multiply these two together to get 36. And then you have that square root of -1. So in this case, it's going to be 6i. All right, moving on to the next one. This is complex number. I just want to remind you, for complex number, we have a plus bi. A is the real part, and b is the imaginary part. Okay, so just b, don't say bi. All right, so b is the imaginary part. So for addition and subtraction, you pretty much just add the real parts together or subtract the real parts together, and then you add the imaginary part together. So for this one, the real part is -2 and -4, which is -6. For the imaginary part, we have 3 and 5. So we ended up with -6 plus 8i. All right. For multiplication, you just FOIL. So we have 12 minus 12i minus 10i plus 10i squared. But don't forget, I squared gives you -1. So that's turned into a -10. So 12 minus 10 is 2. And then we have, combining like terms, we have 22i. So you want to write in this form. You want to write the real part first and then the imaginary part. For complex number, division is special. So is similar to rationalize. So what you want is you want to get rid of I on the bottom. So you want to multiply top and bottom by the conjugate. In this case, the conjugate is -5 plus 4i. So let me remind you, so the conjugate, a plus b times a minus b. These are the conjugate of each other. When you multiply them, you get a squared minus b squared. So keep that in mind. Now, for our current problems, we just have to distribute for the top. We have -25 plus 20i. On the bottom, like I said, we can use a plus b times a minus b, and then we get a squared minus b squared. So I can just square this minus, and then I square 4i. Now don't forget that we have I square is negative 1. So on the bottom we actually have 25 plus 16. So as you can see that the bottom is 41, but you don't want to write that way. You want to break it. So we have negative 25 over 41 plus 20 over 41, and then you attach the I there.